Your government doesn't care about you. That's why you need a medical emergency kit. It contains life-saving medications like ivermectin, Z-Pak, and antibiotics. Stock them before they block them.
看看这人，他就不上来。就不上。
Hey everybody, Laura Limer here. I am currently in Ukraine at the world-famous SCIF drone manufacturing facility. I am holding the P-1 Sun drone interceptor, and you may have seen this drone interceptor recently because it's the same exact drone interceptor that was held by Senator Lindsey Graham just 2 days before he tragically passed away. Now, a lot of people are not aware of this, but Senator Lindsey Graham was actually celebrating his 71st birthday the day that he visited this drone facility in Ukraine. And so to honor the senator spending his birthday with them, Skyfall actually used one of their drones to hold a sign that said, "Happy birthday, Senator Lindsey Graham." Now, they were going to gift the senator with one of these drone interceptors. They actually did gift him with one of these drone interceptors, but nobody knew that he would be dead just 2 days later. And so they've given me this footage exclusively to share with the American people on the day of Senator Lindsey Graham's funeral.
I'll remember that.
They also wanted everybody to know that they're not going to be sending the drone interceptor and the drone to Lindsey Graham's house anymore. Instead, in honor of Lindsey's commitment to stand with the Ukrainian people and to stand against authoritarianism, they're going to deploy the drone to the front lines so that it can be used to kill Russians. So rest in peace, Senator Lindsey Graham, a defender for freedom and liberty all around the world.
Place and let the people of Iran choose.
But from where we're sitting today, when do you think regime change might occur?
I think we are very close to it. And the reason I say this is because, first and foremost, the regime is at its weakest it's ever been since 47 years. Not to mention the fact that in terms of legitimacy, it has totally lost any remaining possible legitimacy it might have had. What happened in Iraq after the Ba'athification. And part of the reason why regime change has gotten a bad name in the West. Why was it? Because it was so poorly implemented and executed in Afghanistan, and particularly in Iraq, where the Republican guards were sent home. Half of them ended up becoming ISIS fighters. I didn't want that to be repeated in the case of Iran.
Within Iran,
So let me
Democratic rule. What qualifications do you believe you have to lead a transitional government in Iran?
Well, if an attorney decides to take a case pro bono, does this mean that he doesn't have a job? I've been doing this voluntarily for free for 4 decades as my sacrifice for the sake of my country. I could have easily decided back in Cairo when my father passed away, you know what, to hell with it. I can pursue, like many others, a life, business, other things, not that they didn't have connections, not that they didn't have people, but I decided to stay in it for the sake of my country that I think in terms of civilization, in terms of culture, in terms of what they can offer the world, deserve much better than this regime and this government. So it's been a personal sacrifice for a lifetime. No longer act independently. You have to be much more careful about what we said or not. And, you know, understand one thing. I know Saeed Qasseminejad and others on my team. Some of them have lived the toughest possible ordeal to get to where they are today. They've been in jail in Iran. They've been tortured by the very same regime that are fighting for today. And so you have to understand that a lot of it could be humanly understandable in terms of pent-up frustration, what have you. I'm not saying that they should not curb some of their statements, and I've already talked to them about that. Hopefully that will be corrected. But you should have to understand the sentiments out there. People in Iran are on the edge of revenge almost, are vengeful.
They'll never have a nuclear weapon. They understand that. And we have had some very good talks, and very interesting with Lindsay. He was very much a hawk, as you would say, on Iran. And over the last few weeks, I would say that he became like, if you could make a deal, it's better making a deal in this case than just destroying the rest of the country. We've destroyed most of it, frankly. But he was somebody that said it's a good time to make a deal, nice time to make a deal. Finish up the job, as some people would like, with the bridges, with the very easy. I could take out most of their bridges in less than an hour. Less than an hour. But, you know, it takes them 10 years to build a bridge. Bridges take the longest, and power plants are second. I can knock out the power plants. Within one day, all of their power plants would be gone. And I let them know that, you know, with negotiations. They said, look, people want me to do that. I think I get almost the same thing out of it as doing it. But the problem is they'll never be able to, you know, I think about 91 million people without power, without bridges, would have to live. And it's a very, very delicate balance. Yeah. So I think we have a very strong position right now. They know I'm going to do that if they don't make a deal. The bridges are going to be gone. Literally in less than, I would say in 2 hours, most of the bridges, the major bridges will all be gone. And the power plants in one day. And, you know, if I can avoid doing that, I'd like to do that. The hardest thing to build is a power plant. The longest thing to build is a bridge.
Welcome back to the SCIF. Oh boy, I just had a 49-hour flight back from Beirut. Had to spend some time in Qatar unexpectedly. What a few days. I'm happy to be here, though. Glad to be joining you back again on the SCIF. Want to say hello to the crew in the chat. You're cleared hot. Check out whatfinger.com. Great third-party aggregator site that does a lot with us on our content. There is so much going on. I mean, you can literally feel the information warfare wafting across the airways. It is just wild. I mean, Lindsey Graham dies, and, you know, have you noticed this thing when people die, then people start saying, well, what he really was saying, you know, like Charlie Kirk, like Lindsey Graham. I just find it fascinating. And is Laura Loomer the new Lindsey Graham? Is she taking over the role of chief warmonger? Wow, just incredible. And do you know, I'm told that drone she was holding in her hand, it's called a Python. I'm told that means penis in Ukraine. So, I mean, it doesn't get any better than this. Just crazy, 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 wild stuff happening. The last thing you saw in the cold open was an Israeli drone over Beirut that we filmed that at the Harissa Our Lady of Lebanon statue. A lot to come out of our Beirut trip. You will be seeing parts and pieces of that as we work a bunch of things behind the scenes. So stay tuned for that at the SCIF. And Laura Loomer saying she's standing against authoritarianism as she hangs out with the guy who's destroying Christianity, put priests in jail, burn steel churches, desecrate the monuments, the relics of the saints. It's amazing the level of just complete lies coming out of the matrix. You can also see who's on what side now, really, really, really clearly. It's just fascinating. Bill Clinton and I have been talking about this for some time, that you will be able to see who is where. You will judge them by their deeds, as it says in the New Testament. Wow, so much going on. And what is Reza Pahlavi, part of the whole information war coming out? He wants to run Iran because he's just been doing it for the Iranians' sake, and he didn't work. He's been dedicating his life to saving the Iranians while he spends all the money that his father, the Shah of Iran, stole from the people of Iran and moved out of the country while he was torturing people in mass prisons. That's who the Matrix wants to run Iran. Just amazing. And the clip in the cold open, the Chinese drone telling the man to get off the beach because he was in the water too late. This is the future, people. The drones are coming. Wow. So much going on. I've got the guy to talk about all this. We got chip crisis. We got, are the markets manipulated? Tucker came out this week and said the commodity markets are all manipulated by AI. I got the guy to let you know if that's true or not. Tom Teague will be with us here in a second. Woo! Wow, so much to go through. We've got a lot going on. Thank you for your patience last week. It was kind of a disaster in Lebanon, but we got some content out, and boy, did we have some good meetings, and boy, is there stuff coming that you're going to be involved in. By the way, no one else in the whole world is reporting what we are reporting. I guarantee you, there is no other news organization that is giving you what we're giving you. So you're in the right place. Stay with us. We'll be right back after this break.
Every day, your data is being tracked, collected, and sold, often without you even realizing it. Big tech companies control your devices, your apps, and the information you share. From your messages to your browsing habits, everything is being monitored and stored. Over time, we've traded privacy for convenience, and most people don't even question it. But what if you could take that control back? That's where Mark 37 comes in. Mark 37 provides privacy-focused phones, laptops, and tablets designed to give you full control over your digital life. With secure systems, expert support, and simple tools, they make it easier to step away from constant tracking and data collection. Because privacy isn't just a feature, it's a fundamental choice. It's about protecting your data, your freedom, and your future. Take back control of your digital life with Mark 37.
The pandemic, we can never be caught unprepared again. And so many Americans, when COVID hit, they had nothing in the house. Stores were shut down, and doctors' offices were shut down, and even if doctors prescribed drugs, hydroxychloroquine, ivermectin, pharmacists wouldn't fill the prescriptions. That was a nightmare.
Now the situation is much worse. We have these horrible supply chain problems. In our emergency medical kit at the Wellness Company, we have 8 prescription drugs that are all potentially life-saving.
Most people who died with COVID, they died in the hospital because they didn't receive early treatment.
Every American family should have one of these.
I can tell you the Wellness Company kit is the answer.
With my 35 years of experience, our team at U.S. Asset Management can deliver professional investment management, financial planning to help you target your goals, and even specialized divorce financial analysis if you need it. We are here to help you make better decisions with your money. Call U.S. Asset Management today, and let's get to work in your financial future.
Welcome back to the SCIF. I want you to know we're fighting on multiple fronts against the censorship matrix. They are coming after us in many, many ways, but we are holding our own, and we're developing allies with other people in important places. So that is an important thing you need to know. I want to just tag along on the wellness company, twbc.health/CDM, promo code CDM. You get 10% off. Go there and get prepared for what's coming. They're going to throw the kitchen sink, the pandemic sink at us, guys. So make sure your family's prepared. twc.health/CDM, promo code CDM. Check out the emergency medical kits. You need this stuff in your house because you don't know what's coming. So I'm just banging the table here. Back the truck up and get your family prepared. Go to twc.health/CDM, promo code CDM. You get 10% off. Check out the emergency medical kits, the contagion kits, etc. We've talked a lot about them. I used my emergency medical kit on the road in Beirut. I had it with me, and one of the people I was with had an issue, and we dealt with it because we had the drugs in our suitcase. Just fantastic, man. I can't speak highly enough about the wellness company and their emergency medical products. So spend some time on the website. All right, let's get to it and talk about what's going on in the markets. Tom is coming in. 1 second. Tom, thank you.
You there?
Yeah.
I'm here now.
Are you still in France?
I am indeed.
Are the zombie migrants coming your way, or what's going on?
I'm in an area that's kind of safe from all that, so that's good.
It is good.
Yeah.
Look, a lot to talk about. Tucker came out with a big piece in his theory. I guess this Unz guy was putting out a theory that, and you can find the report on the internet. It's quite lengthy, but that the commodity markets and especially the oil markets are manipulated, and Trump his team is doing this through AI, with all these things that he speaks into the press that we got plenty of oil's going down, blah blah blah, and the AI reads this and it manipulates the markets and keeps and that's how he's manipulating the commodity markets, and really the price is much higher. What do you think?
So a lot of people say that markets are manipulated. I think that example is very far-fetched to me, because Trump can say, I'm not going to attack Iran, and the price of oil will drop, right? I mean, I think Trump is doing that. If you call that manipulation, yeah, sure, because he's smart enough to realize that he can move markets. He's done a lot of things, like, when we had the Independence Day with the tariffs, he came out the day that they basically shifted and said, this is a good time to buy stocks. And you would have bought a small amount of calls on the spies that day, you would have made like millions of dollars, right? So, people get upset by that, but he's in that kind of position to do that. I don't think I think that there's a lot of people trading oil. Oil's a pretty efficient market. We've had some weird stuff go on in the past. I mean, I don't know if you remember, but we had a lot of storage was taken up, and oil actually traded at a discount when Trump was president in his first term, and he wanted to go out and fill up the SPRs, and all the Democrats in Congress were like, you can't do that, which he would have made a fortune if he would have done it, right? But oil markets are somewhat efficient. To really manipulate it, you'd have to have somebody with a lot of capital to really stir things up. And you go back this week, China said they were going to cut back their imports of oil, 3 to 4 million barrels a day. And that's why the market sunk, right? Also, there's a lot of oil now getting around the Straits of Hormuz through pipelines, all this dead time that everybody was criticizing Trump for during the memorandum of understanding. They were building pipelines. They were getting more oil out of that area. So it gave them some time. I don't think it's necessarily going to be, completed until, 2027, but it's already happening. So, and there's a decent amount of oil out there, so to say that it's been manipulated, and I heard people saying the same thing, the whole time, because they're getting their call wrong on oil. But I think I'd like to see more evidence of that. And, I think you can look at, like, gold was manipulated, I think, for a very long time by U.S. banks, because they didn't to get strong. And there's a way to do that, but it's not as like nefarious. It's just they're out there selling gold futures like crazy and borrowing as collateral from the various central banks, right? But that kind of stuff can happen. I'm not sure that I buy into this like idea that there's like specific things that Trump may control that are AI trading oil. We'd probably be able to see some evidence of that. That's just my perspective.
Well, you put your finger on something. You said people who got their call wrong are now saying it's manipulated.
Yeah, that's as old as the hills, right?
Right.
The markets are rigged because I lost. I mean,
So, what do you think is going to happen in the oil market? I mean, I don't think we're going to get in a massive ground war in Iran. I just don't. So, I could see a long-term blockade of the Persian Gulf if that is needed.
Well, I think you're seeing a lot of oil get around it. And I think that's what the surprise has been, how much oil they're being able to. And I think long term, this is huge because this means that the crazies in Iran can't just use the Strait of Hormuz as their, little pirate lane that they're going to get every time that they're unhappy about something. And I think that's a huge win overall. But I think the problem that you're having now that's not just an oil problem is that you've had Ukraine go into Russia and bomb a lot of the refining capacity. And I heard this week that Russia was actually importing distillates like, diesel and gas and stuff like this from India, right? So that's put you call these things like crack spreads, because when you break down the oil, these are the products you get. I think those are at very, very high levels, which is good for refiners like, Valero, in the US and, various refiners, because they've got a very good business, and it's probably going to be long-term before we get this stuff back online. And also Iran's hit some of the refiners in the Middle East, but I think one thing that will come out of this is that, and this guy, Burnham in the UK, he said he's broken their supposedly, manifesto that they weren't going to drill for oil, which is about the only sensible thing I've heard from this guy. But I think you're going to see a lot of countries start to say, we're going to have to protect our own sovereignty. We're going to have to drill for oil. We're going to have to build refining capacity. So I think the long-term prospect is not necessarily a super high oil price. I think it's going to force everybody to wake up and say, we just don't want this kind of dependency on one country. And it's not a dissimilar thing to what we saw, post COVID with China and the supply chain, right? Like the US was like, we're not going to be reliant on these guys anymore, so they can shut down our economy.
Yeah.
And so I think that's, that's going to be the come out. Like short term, I agree with you. I think there's a lot we don't know about what's going on in Iran. I wouldn't be surprised if there are people in Iran that want a quicker end to this. So they're trying to accelerate stuff, and they're trying to, get the US to attack Iran to destabilize it, and you'd know better than me, but there seems to be, some like level of unrest in Iran right now, with people, and this threat that people are going to start, kind of rising up if it gets too chaotic there.
Well, one thing that we've been, I think, spot on about with our talks with Susan Kakinda and everything, and you and I and others have kind of danced around this, and maybe not put it as succinct as she has when going after the British Empire, but that's where that's where all this crap is coming from. Straight out of the monarchy and the Admiralty in the UK and the MI6. I mean, they're the ones behind Iran. I would put money that they're the ones behind trying to put Pahlavi in power so they can control him. And when you say, that the certain people are trying to impact Iran, I think it's the UK. I mean, that is
I mean,
very, very clear, the market.
I think that Iran, for one reason or another, I think that there is sort of tacit support for Iran from these countries. There's also a lot of this stuff that you see, this sort of like Islamo-communism stuff.
Yes.
Kind of coming out of Iran. They're sort of leading it, right? And the Mandamis, all these people. I mean, I just find it incredible that that people are actually out there protesting in the street, against this war with Iran. Like no, I don't think anybody's a fan of war, but certainly not pro the Iranian regime, and I don't understand how you possibly could be.
Well, that's the tell. That's the tell, man. I mean, you have, and and that's why I question why this narrative like Tucker's putting out, coming after the oil and coming after the MEK, the resistance group in Iran. Why? What is? You can be against a war, but why do you have to be pro the regime? That's the question.
Yeah, that like in particular, like whatever you want to say, they're behind Hamas, right? And look at what Hamas did. Whatever you want to say, you can't deny that they went into Israel and did that. You can't deny you were just in Lebanon. You can't deny that Hezbollah has had a terrible effect on and that whole movement was basically part of the reason you had the civil war and the loss of its place as kind of the Paris of the Middle East or whatever. It's a great place, and so like. I don't know how you could possibly say there's any legitimacy to the Iranian regime. They're the worst, scummiest, like untrustworthy regime there is around. They're like, one of the last legacies of that, axis of evil kind of thing. I mean, I'm not saying we should, get a ground war and try and sound like, George Bush here, but I think clearly to support the Iranian regime is ridiculous.
Yeah, I agree. And by the way, just for our audience sake, we've been involved in some things, and I can say that your and I take on what's going on with Ukraine and elsewhere is spot on. I mean, I think the president is actually moving to defund, to de-engage from Ukraine, and I think that, and I've been told by people in the know that there is. I don't want to say there is a plan, but that's not kind of where I want to go. I mean, they are working in a good way, but there's just a lot of roadblocks to them in the administration to get to a good point for the United States. So I just want to tell our audience.
I'm sure you saw the interview with Zanny Minton-Beddoes of the failing economist and Elon Musk, and his kind of perspective was, you can just kill, 1 million more people, but you're not going to get this area back. Like this thing needs to come to a close. And now, you've got Ukraine starting to hit Russian targets. I mean, I don't know. It's pretty obvious to me that people within the EU, bureaucratic, unelected part of it, really want a war with Russia.
Yes.
And that's just the most ridiculous thing. I mean, they've done a mess with the immigration or migration into Europe from the Middle East and the crime and all that stuff that's taking place. So so you're going to trust them to start a war with Russia? I mean, it's such a joke.
Good point. The kind of conflagration of the Iran and the Ukraine wars with Zelenskiy hitting Russian targets or Iranian ships coming, out to supply Russia. That's just a huge tell as well, because again, you have the UK pushing this war, the globalists pushing this war, and they're behind the Ukraine thing, they're behind the Iran, so they're joining them together. That's why this has to stop. I mean, it's just absolutely insane.
Agreed.
Let's talk chips. What the hell happened in the chip market, man?
Well, I think I think there's a couple of things that are going on right now. First of all, in South Korea, people are gambling the market all the time. And I think, they started pushing up with like leverage products, a lot of these chips. And, there's a real story behind it, which is memory, is not powerful enough to keep up with the progress that we've had, like in the GPU stuff, right? So the GPUs grow in their processing ability faster than the memory does. So, there's only a few memory makers like SK Hynix, and Micron and all this stuff. And these stocks are up massively, sometimes some of them 10 times, because this HBM memory is in real demand right now. So I think you had a bunch of people who were effectively punters in the market, getting leverage, and they, from what I understand, a lot of these guys have had margin calls and had to close it out. So it's precipitated this big sell-off. And then when that happens, you get all these like influencers out there that start saying, I told you this was going to happen. I saw Jim Cramer on CNBC this morning telling everybody to sell, all the memory stuff. But the reality is most of these guys are booked out for a very, very long time, like in terms of the memory that they're making. So they're going to be very profitable with very high margins for a considerable period of time. And, you've also got stuff like with NVIDIA, they're helping to finance, some of the frontier AI guys in the States. And that spooks people because they think it's like vendor financing, but it's also, NVIDIA's got a cleaner balance sheet than some of these, untraded non-public companies in, AI. And I think it's, it's not a stupid thing for them to do, because the frontier AI is really where NVIDIA wants to be. So they want these guys to do well. And that's where the real differentiating, part of AI is between what we have in the US and the Chinese stuff that's cheaper. It's just not the same level in the frontier stuff.
Yeah.
So,
is that still the case? Because, there's a lot of,
everyone talks about it, and there's this Kimmy or whatever that came out. And, I mean, from what I gather, it's, China has made, huge leaps, but they don't have the compute that we have because of the chips. So, they're coming up. If they had that, they've got the energy. This is all stuff that Musk talked about as well. But, if they had that, then, they would probably be ahead of us in AI. But, this is a serious race. Like AI is going to be, everything. There was just a big physics equation or some math, maybe it was algebraic equation that's been like unsolved for 73 years. And Fable, the new version of Claude, helped to like basically disprove this thing like this week. So, there's really going to be leaps and bounds, whether it's in biotech, whether it's in, physics, math, like just getting like, workflows way faster. I use it all day, every day. So it's really important that the US keep its spot there. So, but I like to answer your question, not to dodge it. I mean, I don't think that there's some smoke and mirrors aspect to all these chip companies. I just think they've done incredibly well. And you've had this precipitation of selling because of what's happening with Korea and leverage. You've also got, the Bank of Japan meeting this week. And I think, there's fear that they're going to try to get people to pull their money out of foreign markets and put it back into Japan. And, when that happens, this so-called carry trade unwinds, and there's a lot of tech in it. So that, I think that's part of it,
So you've got two issues. One is the charts, where the stocks are and how they're trading. And the second issue is China like dropping product on the market that shows they're way ahead and maybe pulling the rug out from under the US. I mean,
I don't think they're way ahead. And the other thing is like, and this, if you use AI, it can steal everything you're doing.
Yes.
Right? And do you really want companies in the US to be opening their kimonos for the Chinese AI? Like really? Like think about it.
It's George Bush, WTI.
Yeah, no, I mean it's
redux.
It's really bad stuff. And they're not trustworthy. They steal IP all the time. I think we should really look into the regulatory stuff, but I mean, at least you have the ability to, with law to go after like US companies if they do something wrong to you. Right. And that's happening. But in China, you're kind of SOL. And so, I think that what's happening as this AI evolves is you're going to have, like, I'm sure you read about like Microsoft, and they were spending all this money using agents. There's going to be like a multi-tiered level of agents. You're going to get like more basic stuff, which is going to be probably like open source AI that you'll be able to use. And then you'll have this frontier stuff, which is, stuff that Anthropic and Grok and OpenAI are doing. And they'll be very specific tasks. So it'll be tranched out to, the needs. So the cost will come down. But like the frontier stuff, which is what the U.S. is doing right now, I think will still be, in very high demand in the future. A lot of people try to use this and like look at the fiber optic argument of what happened with fiber optic. We spent all this money on it and then it didn't pay out. I think this is a different ball game. I think we're like the Star Wars stuff with the robots and the droids. It's happening right now. It's coming true, right?
Totally. That's why you don't have the Chinese yuan as a global currency any more than it is, and why it's not the reserve currency, because nobody trusts the Chinese. Why do you want to put your money with them, right?
Cool. Well, and they've got a lot of problems that they've swept under the rug as well.
Sure,
that people,
sure.
that are quite scary. So
yeah. Anything else? Where are these wars going to go? What do you, if you put on your crystal ball, what do you think is going to happen here? Any ideas?
I think that, well, there's a Fed meeting going on right now. I feel like Bessent may have told Trump, listen, you got to like chill out a little bit or you're going to get a rate hike. That's somewhat priced in. I think most people believe it's going to be September. So I think, he's got midterms coming up. And I, he's like, I don't say this in any kind of like, it's not a bad thing, but Trump realizes that it's not just like, this is the only game in town. He's got, an economy to manage. He's got, which is more important than this war. And I think, there's a lot of things we don't see behind it. So I don't see this necessarily going on in a hot war for very long. I don't think we're going to put boots on the ground. And I think, like you said, I believe you, I think this Ukraine thing is going to come to an end because it's just a meat grinder. So those will be, pretty big positives. If the Iran thing's shorter and if they close down the war with Ukraine. So
anywhere you see value in the markets at this point?
I'm kind of a big believer that the next big thing to go is going to be biotech. I think, you look at what AI can affect in the fairly short term. I think biotech is one of the industries that AI is going to have a huge impact very quickly. And we're going to have a lot more drugs come. We're going to have, not paging Dr. Fauci, but, things that can be like helpful to society. And I think we'll have a lot of breakthroughs because of AI. And I think the biotech sector in general has been, relatively weak in the last few years. So I think that's all coming down the pipeline. So that's where I'd be looking.
So how do you get past the trust issue, though? I mean, that has been completely destroyed.
Well, I think the big pharma guys are, they're kind of in a separate category. I think, biotech is very specific on the drugs they're doing. I'm not saying, and I also think like, I think they're overall, and I've had some friends, who have been sick and had to use drugs that these big pharma companies are making. And, sometimes it's the only way to live. So, they may behave very evil sometimes because that's their business model. But I think in general, I think that this is an area that there's going to be big breakthroughs.
Last question. What are you seeing in France? I mean, Europe is just really in bad shape. I see. How do you see things over there?
Well, there's a stabbing in France. I mean, I think Marine Le Pen's like way ahead in the polls. I think the AfD, I was talking to a German person the other day and he was telling me that like, they may try to make the AfD illegal because now they're ahead of the CDU by like, 9%.
Right.
So I think Europe is waking up, to be honest with you. In the UK, you've got, Restore, Rupert Lowe, and, you get all these people that are trying to frame them as like, like Nazis and stuff like this. Is ridiculous. Like there is an observable increase in rape, theft, crime,
murder.
Murder because of this unmitigated, like, immigration that no one in these countries, aside from some weird, woke people, really want. So I think there's going to be a huge pushback against that. And I don't think there's a lot they can do to stop it. I mean, I think that's the general trend you're going to see in Europe. And, today I was watching that, one of the things is, Marine Le Pen, if her party gets in, there's a good chance that they basically tell the EU, like, get out of our faces. Like, we're going to do what we want to do. And I think, I think the EU started off as a good thing, and I think it's like many institutions, it's become a really bad thing for everyone. And
obviously,
and so this is, what's happening in the U.S. is a trend, and I think people look at the U.S. here and say, they look at a lot of people went over there during the football or the soccer World Cup, and I think a lot of people have been told how evil it is and how terrible like the U.S. is, and I think they saw a lot of the greatness of it. And I think people look at the U.S. as like it's the leader in the free world. So if we can manage under Trump to change the course that we're on, away from this globalist world, WEF nonsense, I think Europe's gonna try and follow suit.
You see these videos of like girls on the beach in Spain or in France, and you see these like migrants creeping up on them in the dunes and trying to rape them and like it's freaking crazy.
Well, it's crazy because this is one thing that I think this is really scary. And when you listen to Elon Musk, everyone's like, he's saying there's going to be a civil war in the UK. When you have people doing that and you don't punish them, people will take the law into their own hands. That means if you can't, like the legal system is like a pressure release valve, right? And it punishes the bad people, and supposedly it allows the people who don't commit crimes to who are innocent to be free. It's so on its head in Europe. It's unbelievable. People are getting arrested for Facebook posts in the UK. I mean, even in the US, this woman that had the Leering Center, $4.5 million of fraud, she got like 6 months of jail.
Yeah,
this is a joke.
I hope that gets overturned. I mean, that's
but if the legal system fails to that degree, you're going to have unrest because people are going to go against it. And there was this Musk made this statement, and he was talking about the crime in the UK. Well, yes, the murder rate in London is less than it is in US cities. And we all know why, because there's a proliferation of guns in the US. They're not legally bought. They just are out there. And there's guns that these thugs have from the 20s that still work, revolvers and stuff, right? There's just a massive amount of guns. So there's a way we could stop that, which is like, stop and frisk, or more raids. That'll never happen in these cities because that loses their voter base. Well, it's the same in Europe. All the guys that are coming in, when you look at the rape statistics in the UK, London has 3 times the amount of rape as New York City. They didn't talk about that, right? And that's a huge problem. But if they don't do something about it, they don't start throwing these people in jail, and this grooming gang, rape gang, whatever stuff continues, you're going to have unrest. People are going to lose it.
Well, you had those 2 girls in the UK last year, in the 12-year-old and a 10-year-old, and the girls out there with a knife, stay away from my sister. And I think their mother got arrested or some crap like that. I mean, just insane. I mean, insane.
It is.
We got to really, we're going to be working, just so our audience knows, in the next year to really connect a lot of these communities and try to build a new movement here in globally. But anyway, Tom, thank you very much, man. We'll talk soon. Take care, man.
Every day, your data is being tracked, collected, and sold, often without you even realizing it. Big tech companies control your devices, your apps, and the information you share. From your messages to your browsing habits, everything is being monitored and stored. Over time, we've traded privacy for convenience, and most people don't even question it. But what if you could take that control back? That's where Mark 37 comes in. Mark 37 provides privacy-focused phones, laptops, and tablets designed to give you full control over your digital life. With secure systems, expert support, and simple tools, they make it easier to step away from constant tracking and data collection. Because privacy isn't just a feature, it's a fundamental choice. It's about protecting your data, your freedom, and your future. Take back control of your digital life with Mark 37.
A warm welcome here at the National Press Club. Welcome to the journalists, welcome to the Embra team, and welcome to the other guests that we have here.
going to announce, and as some of you guessed it right when they came in, the first E2 order by an American operator. And that operator is Avello. We believe this is really a strategic shift to unlock profitability for the customer. I'm very pleased that we have Andrew Levy here as the CEO of Avello, and I'm very pleased to give the stage to share a little bit more about what Avello is going to do with the E2 195. Thank you very much.
Couldn't be more excited to be here as part of this historic announcement. We have such a great cultural fit as companies, so we're very, very excited to be Embraer's newest customer. We launched our airline in April of 21, and our target is focusing on small secondary airports of large metro areas. We've carried over 8 million customers since we started on 63,000 flights. And we've done all these things with 1,200 of the greatest crew members I could ever imagine having, and many of them are here with me today. This is the right airplane for us. It's going to open up opportunities for us that no other aircraft can serve. The best thing about the airplane, of course, is you will not find a middle seat on this airplane. It doesn't exist. We won't have any to offer. It's going to be the best cabin in the United States, and we're so excited about that. This is going to elevate our experience to the highest level, and we think our customers are absolutely going to love the airplane.
Your government doesn't care about you. That's why you need a medical emergency kit. It contains life-saving medications like ivermectin, Z-Pak, and antibiotics. Stock them before they block them.
Welcome back to the SCIF. Few things. We are really pushing a lot of programs, reporting initiatives, and we need resources. I'm just going to be blunt. So if you could go to cdm.press, top menu, and make a donation today, it would really help us build our reporting efforts in the Middle East, in Eastern Europe, and our travel expenses with teams on the ground, with technological infrastructure upgrades. We need resources. I'm just going to be blunt. So if you could go to cdm.press, top menu, support us and make a donation, or go to my.cdm.press, and sign up for our no ad subscriptions. It's $10 a month or $100 a year. You get access to all of our content with no ads. We put out a lot of content, and it's unique and early and innovative content, and we're on the ground in multiple places. We're creatively destroying the old legacy media and rebuilding, but we don't get a lot of support from we don't get any support from Big Pharma or any of these big payers in the media business. We're user supported, and some sponsors that are brave enough to deal with us, but we need resources. So either give us a donation at cdm.press, top menu, support us, or go to my.cdm.press and sign up for our no ad subscriptions. All right. By the way, we're going to be heading to Alaska soon to deal with the whole, there's a huge story with the connection to the Russian Federation up in the Arctic, and we're going to be leading that story. So stay tuned for that information. But as we said, we are on the ground just in Beirut and had a fantastic time, met some fantastic sources, developed some fantastic programs, which you will be seeing to connect Christian communities globally to help respond against this darkness, which is trying to lead us into another 1,000 years of darkness for humanity. And we're fighting that with all our might, but we need resources. So on that note, I want to play to tag along with we just discussed with Tom Teague, Susan Kokinda from Promethean Action. I just want to play a bit of her interview, a comment from her on what's going on, so you just be sure you understand exactly what's happening here with some of this deep state stuff.
So here's what you need to understand. The British establishment realizes that the new national security strategy and the other actions by the State Department is a declaration of war against their rules-based order and their policies, and that Donald Trump, if unchecked, is not going to be stopped from establishing an American, not a globalist foreign policy. So they're out to checkmate him with the loss of Congress in the 2026 midterms. And Chatham House, which has been the central mouthpiece for modern British imperialism, is saying it with remarkable candor. They had a year-end policy review seminar, and here's what their director of global economy, Creon Butler, said.
To the extent that in 2026 we have less uncertainty, maybe because Trump loses some steam as a result of midterm elections, because he doesn't want to have any more economic damage to the US Supreme Court decisions, we'll see. You know, or just because, you know, he just runs out of steam, and therefore we have that greater stability. We will, you know, see a stabilization in the economies, and growth will it is going, but it may strengthen further.
Butler is not a minor figure. He's worked for the Bank of England and the Foreign Office under both Labour and Conservative governments. He's the perfect empire man. Now think about what he said. Their entire economic control depends on Trump losing steam in the 2026 midterms. They're not predicting it, they're planning for it. And they aren't hiding it either. Chatham House just published an interview with a top Democratic strategist with this telling headline: if the Democrats can't take back the US Senate in the midterm elections, we're in trouble. Trouble for who? For the globalist establishment that Trump is dismantling. Because if Trump maintains Republican control of Congress, or better yet, increases the MAGA component of Congress, he can finish the economic and foreign policy revolution he started. But if the British establishment and the globalists can flip the Senate, or even just pick up enough seats to empower the rhinos, they can paralyze his agenda for the final 2 years of his term. Now, here's where it gets even more interesting. They aren't just writing and talking about it. They're deploying their own man inside the Republican ranks, Mike Pence. Pence was in Britain in mid-November, getting tuned up for the job, which he laid out in a speech to Chatham House. Pence positioned himself as the anti-Trump on all fronts. He lined up with Europe on Ukraine. He portrayed China as a mortal enemy, and he extolled Britain's role in creating Christian Zionism. Then he summed it up.
The American people are rejecting the siren song of populism. And I believe they always will. Because America's core character does not change. With one leader, one season in our history, our nation has weathered populists and progressives, isolationists and realists, every shade in between.
Not only that, Pence's organization, Advancing American Freedom, is positioning itself as the future of conservatism, one that rejects Trump's economic nationalism and his challenge to forever wars. Just this week, a large group of staffers from the Heritage Foundation defected over to Pence's think tank. Now, in their coverage of that Heritage defection, the Wall Street Journal laid out the reason. Heritage is supporting too many of Trump's policies. And the article quoted Pence attacking Heritage on exactly those grounds. Pence said the foundation had fallen because it had embraced elements of isolationism, stopped backing Ukraine in the war with Russia, supported some tariffs, and backed Robert F. Kennedy Jr. as HHS secretary, among other things. So this is the Trojan horse. While Trump is fighting Democrats and the obvious enemies, there's a quiet effort underway to rebuild the Never Trump faction of the Republican Party with British institutional backing and position it to take back control in 2026 or 2028. They can't beat Trump directly, so they're playing the long game. Sabotage peace in Ukraine, target the 2026 midterms to break Trump's momentum, and rebuild a respectable Republican alternative for when Trump is out in 2028. But here's what they don't count on.
Nuclear wasn't a product that was developed and to sell, really. What it really was a journey to get me well after my experience trying to immigrate and get married to an American citizen in order to get my green card. Towards the end, they send you for a medical, and that's where they sat me down and gave me 16 vaccines in one sitting. At the time, I knew when I was going through it that it's probably not good, but I didn't realize that I'm about to go through the worst health experience of my life. And that's when I went on this journey and understand that nutrition is actually your medicine. I've always heard the old people say your food's in your garden, but we didn't get it. And your body is always trying to heal itself. I mean, you know, when you cut yourself in a couple of days, it heals. And that is the process of homeostasis. Your body is always trying to, every cell in your body is always healing itself. And just like anything, if you bake a cake or you build a house, you need the right ingredients to achieve the result. Now, if you don't have the correct nutrition and you're not eating the correct food, it's like trying to build a house without bricks. Now, a lot of people, they say, what does nuclear do? Nuclear itself does nothing. It's not designed to do anything. Your body does the work. It gives your body all the things it needs balanced in, and it works together to deliver the correct nutritional supplement that you need as a human being to function normally.
It's finally here, our second annual mega sale. This sale only comes around once a year, so take advantage of the best offers ever while you can. For example, save 50% on our Giza Dream bed sheets, as low as $29.98. And for the first time ever on TV, MyPillow mattresses and MyPillow mattress toppers, as low as $99.98. And you save 50% on our Lux Pure 6-piece towel sets, regular $69.98, now only $39.98. And our best-selling standard MyPillows, regular $49.98, on sale for $17.98. Wait on it, mega sale, only $14.98. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use this promo code to take advantage of our second annual mega sale. But wait, there's more. To make the mega sale even more special, when you order right now, your order's going to ship absolutely free.
Welcome back to the SCIF. I want to just give a shout out to Advisor Metals. Go to cdmmetals.com. We had Ira Bishotsky on last week. Fill out the form and they will contact you, and you will have a great experience to look at putting precious metals in your portfolio. cdmmetals.com. I'm going to, again, we're not giving investment advice. You need to go talk to your financial advisor, but we are banging on the table, backing the truck up and screaming out loud, you need to possibly take a look at precious metals. The charts they've sold off a good bit. The charts look really good. They're building a great base. The geopolitical environment looks really good for precious metals. They're a store of value for decades or centuries and centuries, millennia, 5,000 years. And that's not going to change. And there's so much uncertainty right now. You know, as I say, I never was good on Wall Street day trading, but I was pretty good at long-term trends. And I see this as a long-term trend in that there's going to be money, and a lot more money, going into precious metals. And so take a look at that. Go to cdmmetals.com, and either you have cash assets or you can roll your IRA, as Ira said, or you can call them direct. But if you call them direct, the number's on the webpage there at cdmmetals.com. Make sure you tell them CDM sent you, and check them out. All right, I want to talk about a few stories now. This one we just talked about with Tom Teague. You can see this on cdm.press, which is by the way, I've got some construction going on outside. I apologize. There's some road work happening here. Hopefully you can't hear that beeping from the guys backing up, but that's what it is. So this story is on cdm.press, and it's a description of what's happening possibly in the chip market, at least the concerns. You can see that. We've gone over that with Tom, so I won't delve into that too much. This one is important. Netanyahu and Zelenskiy are in the Oval Office today. I believe, and I have good information from sources inside, that Trump really wants to end the Ukraine war. He's just got to do it in the right way. And so you're going to see continuing U.S. withdrawal from that conflict, and hopefully a solution found sooner than later. So that is good news to us. We'll be talking more about that over time, but we can give you our confidence that we think that's what's happening on the inside right now. All right, this one is important. Yes, there are interceptor problems, but I think the Department of War is pretty much on it. I think they've got the logistical and defense industrial base chain hopping to fix this problem. So the truth is somewhere in the middle. We're not about to run out of interceptors so that we can't fight a war, but there is a shortage. But the flip side is the Department of War is on that. And we've been on the trip with Secretary Hegseth out to LA last year for the Arsenal of Freedom tour, but I think they're all over rebuilding our, defense industrial base, and as far as creating enough projectiles to deal with the interceptor threat, the interceptor shortage, but also retooling our military for the drone conflict that is coming. We hope that continues. Obviously, everything is not being done that should be done, but a lot is. So that's that. And then this story, Britain is giving a lot of weapons to Ukraine. They're giving them the Stonehook drone technology, the Storm Shadow missiles. I mean, this all goes back to the UK, which is the seat of globalism, and is we think one of the major gangs in the gangs of New York wars that are going on as far as fighting all this. So that is important. Another story on the Connecticut Sentinel. Homeschooling and democracy. They're coming after homeschooling in Connecticut big time. And they're having DHS, not DHS, but the child welfare system in the States, whatever that means, going after these people. So this is important. So take a look at that. And if you are, or you know people that are homeschooling, we have to protect this. And Connecticut is really going after it hard, and Connecticut is the seat of communism. So that's that. All right. This story is important too. I wanted to bring to you on the Georgia Record. A gentleman was out with glyphosate, which is Roundup, and he was working for a company clearing a fence, like a utility company or something, and got sprayed with this stuff. And look what happened to him a few weeks later: massive lymphoma tumors. This stuff is bad, and you've seen all this legislation in the markets or in the legislators in the states putting up immunity for these companies, China Chemical and all these, Bayer and others. And you just need to be aware this stuff is really, really, really dangerous. All right, that's all we got today. We were on a 48 or 49-hour trip back home yesterday. Really didn't have a chance to put together a longer show, but we will be back tomorrow. And thank you for joining us today on the SCIF. Really appreciate it. And we'll be back. Please support our advertisers. Please sign up for our socials, subscribe on YouTube. That's really important. We got to grow those numbers. Rumble and everything else, CDM_press, etc. on X. So we'll be back tomorrow. Thank you for joining us today. Sorry for a short-ish show, but we'll be back tomorrow. And thank you again. Bye.